you like. I can invite you to UST to discuss more of this. Let's have lunch together. But definitely, I would not recommend, as a qualitative researcher, I would not recommend that you choose 2 people per area and say, this is the voice of Manila or Cebu or whatnot. Because that is how it will come out by the time you write this paper. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this suggestion.
I agree, a case study of the better method. And I just want to commend you for the amount of work you see has done in doing all these studies.
Thank you very much.
It's an innovative approach, and it won't necessarily be easy.
Yeah, we're running out of time, but I think that the real strengths of this proposal are that you're filling a gap that we clearly know there isn't a lot of literature on already, and also you also have a very strong methodology to start with, though of course there are probably refinements that can be made before you submit your final proposal. As you submit your final proposal, I would also just keep this in mind to think about, even though you're doing this study in the Philippines, how it can actually be generalizable in other countries, whether it be throughout Southeast Asia, etc. Because especially as you go on to the next step after this project of looking for bigger grant funding to do it on a larger scale, a lot of people will be interested in knowing that the results of this can actually generalize to LGBT communities affected by disaster around the world. So think about that. With that, I think we'll close group 2. Give them a round of applause. Bring up group 3, please.
Hello, good morning everyone. I'm Roxanne Galshan, representing the Group G, and with me is Ashik from Singapore. So our project will be going on convention proposal, and our project is about aquaponics for sustainable food security in post-disaster. So why this project? So our problem is that, oops, I'm sorry, here, okay. The problem is that one of the common problems we experience in post-disaster is food security. So we have to ensure that everyone in our community has food. And as we have witnessed in the different contexts here in our Philippines. So why here in Barangay Arguendo in Nueva Ecija? So our facilitators have suggested this area based on their experience since they are part of the USTC Bahayan. They have been with the community for 6 years and they have encountered, share stories of their experiences during disaster. Okay, I'm here, I'm back. Okay, disaster situated in barangay, this barangay is situated within the geographical location that is prone to hazard. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so we are prone to flooding and rain-induced landslide. So with that area, just here. So that here, sorry, this area formed as submerged when they encountered the disaster. And that happened during 2001 Typhoon Mimi and Yoyo, and it passed in Fedrin in 2011. Thus, we choose that area. But, so, moreover, the uncemented area also is submerged during the river when the river overflows. Therefore, it hinders the assistance from the outside. Therefore, it's more the community is isolated. Therefore, our team proposed this aquaponics. Well, perhaps some of you have heard about it, and it's not something really new. But what we want to share is that this project is more of a supplementary for the community to have an alternative food source or produce in times of disaster. And we think that in the long run, this project would also benefit the community by giving us their food source that they can sell to the market. We are going to organize the community to be a social enterprise. So to provide them. The goal is that to provide the community a supplementary food in terms of disaster, but in the long run is to have a social enterprise. So what is aquaponics? just scientific behind it, but it's a food production process which combines traditional aquaculture, raising aquatic animals in tanks, with hydroponics cultivating plants in water. So as you can see, there are fishes at the water tank, and then there are growing yes, grow beds or food vegetable bed at the top. So this will also complement the initiative already of the DOST, in which they are also introducing this kind of technology to some areas in our community. So who will be collaborating for this project? We believe that it's the community who should be the first, since they are the target, and we will be working with the academy for the technical expertise, the private sector for support as well, and support from finance, and of course for financial literacy, since we will be also engaging in social enterprise at the later part, and of course the barangay LGU. So, how this works?
Hi. Hello. So I'm here to narrate to you the problem that we have in context. Just to summarize, a brief understanding of the community is like this. When a disaster happens, there will be flooding. This is based on observations of a particular community called the Barangay Ariendo community. When there's flooding, all the crops are destroyed. This leads to immediate food scarcity. After 1 or 2 weeks, it can lead to dependence on external aid. If the food scarcity is protracted, it can lead to a second disaster and so on. So this is the context in mind. What we are suggesting is a two-pronged approach. The first approach is for the community to engage in aquaponics farming. So the community and the private sector will provide the materials, and the community will keep the seeds and fingerlings for the aquaponics farming. The second approach is for the community to, every month, a certain fraction of their harvest is sold and the capital is kept in the bank. This is a pre-disaster savings account. So we call it crops capital in bank. In the occurrence of a disaster, this crop capital is converted to food that is immediately sent to the community. Based on my rough estimations, conservatively, it can provide for 40% of the households in the community. For the aquaponics farming, it will provide for, in the occurrence of a disaster, 33% of the households. But these numbers are contingent on a 2-week basis. I understand that the local governance unit is committed to 3 to 4 days response in providing food. But in the worst case scenario, we have this amount of households covered in a 2-week window.
So we'll be involved and be accountable or manage this project. So we want the community. So first, of course, we want to have this initial engagement with them. So we want the community to own the project. So we believe that organizing them is the key for the sustainability of this project. So, and of course, to involve them as well with the planning and risk assessment to identify what are the strategic places we can set up this, as what are the initial source of water or other source of water that we can provide this kind of project. And also, we do not take out the picture of the men here because we want them to involve as well on the community preparedness. So that's why we will also be engage them with a hazard awareness raising like trainings. And in the long run, in the future, we want to also have this financial literacy training for the women because we want them at the long run to have this, to open up this social enterprise. So, of course, the key is that of course, we want to emphasize here that the collaboration for the sustainability is community. We want them to believe that the initial assessment, the building rapport, we want to get their info or their inputs on what kind of species should go for fishes and the kind of vegetables that we want to grow within the grow bed. So for the cost, of course, it will be a bit, let's say, a big investment. But we believe that the benefit for the produce of this project would outrun this investment. So we have that based on the rough estimation, the system will improve the coverage from 0% to 73% of the households in terms of food resilience in the aftermath of disaster. Investing in this approach may also be cut down the post-disaster response cost by about 20 to 40%. That's a rough estimate. What?
So that is all for group 3. I think Corey would like to say something. No? No. Okay. Who will have to say?
So I will defer to my business colleagues to talk about this as it's a venture proposal.
First, a big round of applause for Group 3. Thank you very much for standing up. First of all, I'm really intrigued by your proposal. It seems to make a lot of sense. I'm particularly impressed by the concept of the crops capital in bank and the idea of saving forward. I just wanted to clarify a few things, and then maybe the rest of the panel can also ask their questions. Sorry, just basic education on my part. The idea is to do the aquaponics on higher ground so that it's not vulnerable. Whose land is that being placed on? Is that communal land or is that privately owned land?
It's a communal land, sir. Communal land.
It's based on communal land. Okay. The other key part of your concept was that the crops capital in bank can be quickly converted. That's cash, right? It's the accumulated profits which then will be converted into cash. How does it get converted into cash if, because of the disaster, the whole point is there's no ability to bring food? So how does that community in the first 2 weeks convert the cash into food?
Firstly, I agree. It's that the cash will not be readily available in the first 24 or 48 hours. So we're the direction, the idea is that the crops and the harvest and the tilapia itself or whatever kind of fish really engage to. It will be the immediate requirement of the family, the household. We need 24 48 hours until the cash will be available. Now, on the cash, on the business side, the model, right now, we're trying to look into the engaging with the direct model, which is one of the subsidiaries of the Philippine Islands. In this, we would like to invite them for a part of their CSR project. This has never been done before in any banking institution. So we'd like to initiate this kind of project for small microfinancing side, at the same time, a pre-calamity fund ideas that we really raise any other institution. So we'd like to introduce this kind of business model maybe soon, depending on how the management of the Direct Bank will appreciate our proposal and could engage them slowly, like a CSR project, and later on turn to like a social enterprise for them.
Thanks for explaining. Just my suggestions, and I know you only had 7 minutes, but in the formal proposal, if you can just make it clear how the profitability works and how the reinvestment happens, and secondly, how this compares to other, what gap does this fill? In other words, how is this better than the alternatives? Maybe some comparison to show why this is additive to the ecosystem today. So those would be my suggestions. Again, very impressed. Thank you. I'll give it to Bill.
Yeah, thank you. I like the idea, and thank you very much for the presentation. I guess my suggestion here would be that this is really a year-round, ongoing business. That's the first thing in mind, because you're backing the crop capital, and you're also supplying food and addressing food security issue throughout, not only during disaster, but even before a disaster, hopefully. So I think the key consideration here is who owns and who manages the venture. I think that's going to be really important because many of these things, they live and die by this kind of ambiguity. You need to be really sure. You said it's a communal land, but ultimately, who owns it? Is it the local government? Is it a cooperative? Is it a private corporation made up by just a few in the community who turn it into a business, selling stuff to the rest of the community? That's a tricky question that you have to navigate through. But I think once you figure out that ownership and management issue, then you begin to figure out the rest of the business model behind this. So for sustainability, you have to really think of that fundamental issue.
We appreciate the suggestion, sir. Thank you. Right now, we're looking at the portion of financial literacy. That's where we're going to get the idea from the people, from the basic aspect. Because we need to know their consensus. It's not just we're introducing something new to them, but we need to get some feedback from them. But this community has experienced before. They had a cooperative before, but unfortunately, it died. It was not successful. For some reasons, politics involved. That's part of our paradigm that we presented in our paper, in our proposal. Because the collectiveness, there are three factors affecting this our idea. And the center will be the food security. On the top of the triangle is the kinship network, which correlates to the collectiveness of the community. And on the right side of the triangle is the dynamic pressure, which is affected by the politics, the local politicians at the Barangay level. And on the left side of the triangle is the literacy portion, which is where we're going to compete heavily. We're going to help the academic side, our partners with the University of Plans.
The private sector, I think it might help to have pre-agreements so that those are in place so that whether it's Jollibee or Inverness, they'll be ready to buy the products. But the way I see it, so this is two problems. You're going to supply food for the community in need, but we'll also be selling products to the private sector.
There will be two problems. The other one, the case for disaster, they need to feed the local community. And the further, going to further without any need, right, immediately they can go to social enterprise level. Identifying partners, as you mentioned, sir, we will try to look for local partners who can sell the product for example.
They'll buy the products.
Yeah.
Cooking goods will be
All right, thank you for group 3.
Just one quick comment, less of a question, and just a suggestion for when you're submitting your final proposal, to really make sure you think through kind of the capacity building aspects of this. I didn't hear too much of it in here, and also the maintenance of these systems, right? It's very important to have that continued support throughout to the families, to the communities that are going to hold this. So make sure you build that aspect into the sustainability of it. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning to the panel and judges. But before we start our program, I would like to introduce my group mates because one of the criteria, as you can see their faces, their eyes are shut, so you can see the dedication of their team. So you might want to consider what we're getting. So this is a dedicated team. So we'll just say our team is composed of academics and researchers from University of Santo Tomas, Vincent P. Serrano, Dr. Florence Ray, Frederick Ray, and Florencina Natividad from Clark Water Corporation, Melissa A. Alcacid, and from Del Charis, Indonesia, Camelia Alcibiani, and from the University of San Carlos, Sir Christopher B. Estalio, and me, Louis Loraya, from the Office of the Cabinet Secretary, Office of the President. So, we are the best group, so I think we're going to say it, I might as well say it. Okay. So, the first question in our study is, if we are trapped in this building and all the telecommunication lines are down, how will we communicate? So, let's put in context that nobody rescues rescuers because they have radios on, they can communicate, but how about us? Common employees, common students, common community workers, we don't have radios. So, if we are trapped in this building, how will we communicate? So in that context, but for that, I have, this is a solid example. This is a prediction of JICA telling us that if the big one hits, 30 kilometers of electric cables will be cut and 95 kilometers of communication cables will be disconnected. So this one is a concrete example that we won't be having communication for cell phones, for landlines. So that is why our study is entitled Effectiveness of Wireless Mesh Network as an Alternative Form of Communication in the Community During Disasters. Okay, so what is this wireless mesh that we're hearing? This wireless mesh is not actually the innovation at first for the study, because this wireless mesh has been with us for about 6 to 8 years, and still, why we are not picking it up? Okay, so the principle of this wireless mesh network is our cell phones are transmitting even without the telecommunication infrastructures or without Wi-Fi or any other connection to an infrastructure. So why won't we use it? Why won't we use the transmitting mode of the cell phone? So some developers made an app that lets you connect to a cell phone nearby, but providing that he has the same application, but it has only a few, about 200 meters range. So in order to get the messages into the person that in the network or in the range, it bounces. And consecutively, it creates a mesh communication. So that's why the study seeks to use this technology. So to be blunt, what does this best group have? So this is what they're offering. Okay, the study offers that it will provide a proof of concept in a no telecom disaster scenarios. This hasn't been done yet, because they were using something with an infrastructure. This one is purely us cell phones, the ones that are purely without any support from any company, any wireless, any broadband. They don't have any proof of concept that. If you can read in the internet, it was used in a protest in China, but it was not documented, and it was not disaster. And they were stationary, and they were with in a near proximity, so probably it will work, but not in a disaster scenario with no telecom. Another thing is, after we simulate it, we will be having the guidelines for implementation of wireless mesh network for disaster communication, which we don't have. We doesn't have anything in the internet yet. And then, this one is actually another first. Communication integrated emergency drill without telecommunication infrastructure. Okay, so after we had the guidelines from the pilot study, we will be incorporating it in our daily drills. In our drills in the Philippines, we have emergency drills, flood drills, and other evacuation drills. And this one will be the first to incorporate the wireless mesh into our emergency drills. Okay, this one will not be included in the study because we're going to do the guidelines first and the pilot testing. But eventually, after it works and after we have integrated in the community, we will be using their feedbacks in order to do this one. But it's not included because this really needs large funding. Okay, so our main objective to determine the feasibility of the study is to determine the effectiveness and efficiency and barriers of the wireless mesh network communication during disasters. Number two, to evaluate the impact of the implementation of wireless mesh network communications, and number 3, to formulate the guidelines and regulations in using the application through participatory approach. Okay, so this is not a random thought. This was actually based in a theoretical way. So DeSantis and Poole said that in order to create an outcome for an organization, you will need to subject the existing structure of the organization into a technological application. And that is where our wireless mesh network comes in. So by making the wireless mesh network as the technology application, we will be having the outcome, which is the people empowerment. And then, this one is the research methodology. Actually, our research will be focusing on the pilot testing and formulation of guidelines. That one will be done in the long run, and not in this study. So the pilot testing and formulation of guidelines, and step 3, the community level testing. The research methodology is quantitative and qualitative. There will be one rural and one urban university college in the Philippines, and for a total population of 500 using raw soft, 95% confidence level and 5% margin of error. And there will be 218 participants will be involved in the 2 areas. The school earthquake drill procedure includes alarm operation, response, evacuation, and assembly. And this one is for the quantitative. Actually, it's a routing protocol computation that we use. And this one will be applied to because it's the same principle. You have to, by sending a message, you're sending energy. This one is for deliberation of application packets, which will have the same principle. And this one, the average end-to-end delay will be the number of successful messages delivered versus the ones that were not sent. So we will know exactly how many % of messages that gets out. And this is the dissemination plan, because we were asking if can this stand alone. After we have the guidelines, it will roll down into the community using it as their own. They will be needing us. And conveniently,